Morning, everybody. Welcome to Governance Committee. Today, I would like to begin today's meeting by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather and to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to the Governance Committee meeting of the 29th of November. I declare this meeting open at 10:44. And would like to advise attendees in the room that this meeting is being webcast and audio recorded. We're fine down the back, we're all recording. Excellent. So we have a heavy agenda today. But first off, we are going to start with attendance. I don't believe we've got any leaves of absence today, so thank you for all attending today. Now I refer to declarations of conflicts of interest. Do councillors wish to declare any conflicts of interest today against any agendas? There being none, that's great. So we'll move on to the reports today. Today we have 10 reports, and of those, 7 are confidential. So I apologise to the public, but we may be moving in and out of confidential today. And at some stage, we do have a heavy agenda. We may take a break for a lunch break there as well. So I just wanted to let the public know that that was happening. So first off, we are going to start with Miss Kim Bryant. If she could move to the front, please. Does anybody have any general business for the Director of People and Engagement? None? Do you have any for us, Kim?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Excellent way to start the reports. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas, and I hope you have a great time over the holiday season. Next, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be moving on to a confidential report, which is Organisational Arrangements Report number 3. I have been asked today that no staff or visitors remain in the room, so it's only just the councillors. So if that could please happen, then we'll get on to that report. Once that report has been done, we'll bring the rest of the staff back into the room. We are going to do a quick vote to go into confidential, or can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Karansky, followed by Councillor Russell. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously. Please note that there will be no staff in the room to come out of confidential. live streaming. Thank you everybody for coming back. We've just finished our report 5.1. We're just waiting for the meetings team to put the motion up on the board.
Can I just quickly join the Microsoft Teams link again? Because we haven't re-added.
No, we just still at the stuff, sorry. Sorry, this is a complicated report. So, councillors, on the board, we have the motion for report 5.1. Councillor Bradley has moved it. Councillor Bannon has seconded it. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Hi. That has been carried unanimously. Thank you very much for your time. Just please bear with us for a moment while we gather the rest of the staff to allow them to come back into the room. Thank you, everybody, and welcome back. We're just working on the Teams link for the moment. Bear with us with the meeting staff. And then we're, Mr. CEO, would you like to just do general business while we're here? So, councillors, does anybody have any general business for the CEO? Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, through the chair. I want to note it on the public record that way back the start of this year, I asked for a GB item in relation to Springwood Town Square. I was told that report would come up in July. That report still has not come up. I have sent an email to the appropriate people and asked what's going on with that. I haven't been consulted, nothing. That's all I will say. I would love to say other stuff, but I won't in the public domain. But I do have concern with how this is played out.
Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, Councillor Bradley asked me this morning about when that report is coming back. I've checked with Mr. Hanson and his advisor is coming in January.
Councillor Bradley, is that okay with you?
Thank you, through the chair, for asking that question. There was a question asked in the previous committee about caretaker timeframes, and I'm just going to ask the CEO, does that actually cover the caretaker timeframes, or is it before the caretaker timeframe?
The council meeting will be before caretaker.
Thank you.
Is that concluded your request now, Ms. Bradley?
I would, like I said, I would like to say something publicly, but I will not.
Okay. Mr. CEO, do you have any general business for us today? Thank you for your time. Okay. Sorry, we're just checking on recommendations for the last report. Councillors, we will now move on to item 5.2, which is the local infrastructure program for December 2023. I do believe there is updated attachments 1 and 3 that were sent out to councillors on the 28th of November, which was yesterday, in relation to this. But I'm going to hand it over to Caroline Bugg. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, councillors. Item 5.2 is Local Infrastructure Program Report for December 2023. As the Chair just mentioned, there was a late email yesterday afternoon regarding amendments to the report. The report seeks your endorsement for new and adjusted projects, and there are 2 projects for special consideration. I'll just go through the attachments first. Attachment 1, there are 26 new projects for December that fall within the LIP guidelines, and these are recommended to be endorsed. Attachment 2, there is 1 project with a material adjustment for local traffic improvements to the maximum amount. So this is recommended to be endorsed. Attachment 3 has 2 projects that are presented for special consideration, as these fall outside of the adopted LIP guidelines and therefore are not recommended for endorsement, although the attachment, the attachment does note 3 projects. One of those has been withdrawn. That's project LIP 00655, so that was a late withdrawal. In regard to the two projects on that attachment, LIP Project 663, the Logan Village Men's Shed, is presented for a decision of council. Is noted in this attachment that the asset is on land that is not owned by council, and hence the project falls outside of the guidelines, and we therefore can't recommend this project for approval. Again, for LIP Project 0664, this is for the installation of bike cage at Logan Home State School. Again, noting that the asset is on land that is not owned by council, and council, so therefore this project falls outside of the LIP guidelines, and as such we can't recommend that project for approval. Of course, it is up to council to decide whether to approve these projects under special consideration for the LIP program of works. The last attachment for this report is in relation to a project that has been completed, and we are looking for this project to be approved through this monthly report.
Thank you, Carolyn. I have Councillor Stemp first, then Councillor Kerensky. Councillor Stemp, do you wish to proceed? Councillor Stemp?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I ask for a moment to discuss item LIP 00664, please. While under the LIP policy, this project doesn't meet the two criteria outlined in the report due to the constraints of the policy, a bike cage enclosure does fall within the definition of a capital project, provides a direct benefit to the community, and does meet all of the 12 general guidelines of the policy. The reason a request for funding towards the installation of a bike cage enclosure at the school has been brought to council for consideration is because students riding to school regularly have their bikes stolen from the school grounds. For many students, riding a bike or scooter to school is the only way they actually make it to school each day. Students riding to school supports Council's Active Logan strategy and the Way to Go transport plan. The project would provide 11 by 11 metre cage structure with bike racks and a scooter rack, and it will be securely locked in the morning and unlocked in the afternoon. The school P&C group fundraised for this project during the year, but due to the cost of living pressures on families, they didn't fundraise anywhere near enough that they needed for the project. The project is requesting $14,965 in local infrastructure funding, which is half the cost of the project, and if approved, the school could have this project completed over the Christmas holiday period for when students return to school in 2024. Based on this, I ask my fellow councillors to please consider supporting the funding of this project and propose an alternative motion supporting the project as provided to the meetings team.
Thank you, Councillor Stemp. Up on the board at the moment, the meetings team has put the motion on the board that it's currently in the recommendations. Once we get to that, if that does not be approved by our fellow councillors, we'll put up Councillor Stemp's other recommendation. So now, next is Councillor Kerensky.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a few issues with the Logan Village Men's Shed and how it's come up not being supported. Whilst I recognise that the project might not meet specifically the guidelines as Carolyn outlined, certainly council officers have been on this journey with me since the dawn of time, and we're well aware that this isn't sitting on council land. In fact, it's sitting on a parcel of land that I was able to help negotiate that the men's shed have access to because it's part of the rail trail. And as it's part of the rail trail, we requested through EDNS and so on that we would have access to that trail to enable residents and so on to be able to use part of that site. So I'm most intrigued that this has come back unsupported. Also, given the fact that I've been chasing this for months now to try and track it down, and it turns up as a late attachment to this report. And the feedback I received was, we're waiting for some deed over the ownership of the land, which is something council would have had for probably 2 years now. So all that being said, councillors, I am asking for your support. It is a special consideration because quite rightly so, it is sitting on state land. It is a men's shed. The men's shed have tried very much to find a parcel of land that would be suitable for their needs. And as council, we assisted them in securing this parcel of land with a view to them building a men's shed on the site and with a view to providing with them support for erecting the men's shed. I'd like to first of all thank Councillor Bannon, who really had skin in the game in helping them get to this point in time, It's a small sum in the grand scheme of things, and these gentlemen offer an incredible amount of support to local men in the local community, and I'll be very disappointed if this doesn't get traction today. So I'd like this amended to include LIP 00663 for approval.
Thank you, Councillor Cransley. As stated before, first off, we'll put up the motion as it is, and if it's not carried, then we'll amend the motion, and I'm sure that we can. What we're talking about is section 3 of the special recommendation, that we could change that to be approved for 663 and 664, if there is a change in recommendation. I note Councillor Raven and Councillor Lane, but first I have Councillor Bannon.
Thank you, through the chair. I guess that was the question you answered. So obviously Councillor Stemp doesn't want it to get up, and I'll support that, but I just don't want it to affect Councillor Karansky's one. So just the way they're tied together confuses me. Like, if it doesn't get up, does that mean Councillor Karansky doesn't get up?
So currently they're not supported by the council officers.
Yeah.
So we'll vote on that first,
Yeah.
and then if that does not get carried, then we'll change the motion to say in number 3 that they be, just the end bit there, it says not to be approved. We will change that to be approved for 663 and 664. Or we can separate them if you require. Okay, thank you. I have Councillor Raven, then Councillor Lane.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm very supportive of the Logan Village Men's Shed, as I'm aware of the history there, and when it's state land that we essentially have a lease over because of the rail trail, I'm surprised that it doesn't comply with the policy. I've got questions though for Councillor Stemp. So is there, so with cages for scooters and bikes, I know that Waterford West just had one installed by Education Queensland. Is there a reason why Education Queensland isn't just installing a cage?
I'm not sure whether they've asked, but it was certainly this was the only way they believed they could fund it, was through fundraising. So it's been a project of the PNC and the school to fundraise for it.
Okay. The yeah, just, and they had a reasonably significant upgrade, so I assume it was part of it. But it just surprises me that when it is something that's also in the state government's list of priorities, have more kids walking and riding to school, I'm surprised that they don't have a funding source as well. That said, it feels like there's a way to thread the needle of the use of the policy by having the PNC have a lease over the cage. Would that have worked? Because it's a community organisation in a 10-year lease with Ed Queensland. It just feels like there was a way for you to be compliant. But, yeah.
Mr. Ben, you're going to join the conversation here. Thank you for coming today.
So was there a way to make this compliant with the policy by having like a 10-year lease over the cage?
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, the policy as it stands right now requires a not-for-profit community group or sporting group to have a lease, because when council makes a contribution to state infrastructure and a state asset, we would enter into a joint development agreement that would in return return council security of tenure for a community group, and to make that happen we need to have a lease.
And the reason that we do that, thank you, is because we want it to be used not just during school time, but after school time as well. Because otherwise we end up in a position where schools keep coming to us saying, hey, now that there's a cage in one school, can you put a cage in all schools? And can you, now that we've got a cage, and that's great, can we now have an upgrade to our car park? Whereas we've got a really long-term view that we want the state to pay for its own infrastructure, because they collect far more tax than we do. So my concern is, and I know that you're trying to help your community group, and I completely understand and support that. My concern is that this is really infrastructure it is infrastructure, not portable assets, so that's great, but it's really only going to be used by school kids at school time. And ratepayers don't get to access that cage outside of school kids' school time, if you know what I mean. But if there is a way that's getting used after school hours, I'm much more comfortable with it, because that's essentially the grounds on which the Pirates have stuff installed on their school grounds, and how Marsden has stuff installed on their school grounds, that they must give access to the community outside of normal school hours, so that ratepayers essentially have a way of getting value out of the investment that we've made in state infrastructure.
Yes, Councillor Stamp, you may respond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councillor Raven, I guess my thought is that all the kids that go to that school are our ratepayers anyway. Like the families of those kids. I mean, that's the way I'm looking at it from the point of view of, okay, it's in a catchment. These are all the kids that live in that area. They're potentially ratepayers, and you know we're effectively using this as a facility, an item being used by the community, which is our ratepayers. Is my thought.
Thank you. Councillor Lane and then Councillor Bradley.
Thanks very much, Madam Chair. Through you. My question is for Councillor Stemp. The location of the cage, is it inside the grounds or is it in the car park which council is required to maintain?
Through you, Madam Chair. Councillor Lane, it's actually inside the school grounds and there will be no maintenance requirements of council.
That's no worries. The LIP policy is the LIP policy and we don't bend on the LIP policy. It's public money and the officers have made a recommendation. If it was in the car park, we could have an argument that we maintain the car park. But council land is council land and the policy is the policy. So unfortunately, if they were to move it to the car park, I'd be supportive of it, but they're not. So I won't be able to support that one. And the men's shed, what I understand, is on state land. Again, it's not within the policy and not the officer's recommendations. And given that we're all worried about the perception of going against the officers in reports, this is a difficult one to support.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Councillor Bradley.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'm probably in agreement with Councillor Lane. The policy was set up in that way because once upon a time, councillors were hit up for air conditioning in schools and all sorts of other infrastructure that would normally be funded by the state government. And obviously once upon a time council used to fund car parks. Now we're pushing back off that. We still do them? Yeah. Okay, well there you go. That's a new thing for me because I thought we were pushing off that. I know we maintain them, the ones that are already been funded by council. The policy has been set up for a certain way and really it should go to the state for funding. That's just my opinion.
Councillor Bannon, and then we'll test this.
The policy's been set up in a way that these things come for special consideration for councillors to put their opinion in it. The fact that people are worried about the school coming to them for multiple things, I don't see it's valid because the council can just say no. That's part of being a councillor. You say yes and you say no. The men's shed couldn't be more agreeable on it because, as you said, they only got the land because Councillor Karansky went and got them the land. They had nowhere else to go. It makes sense. Councillor Stemp's one, it's a bike rack for all the people that are residents. They can use it after hours. There'll be no reason why they can't. So they still play sport there after hours, the same as they do at Marsden. It is ratepayers' money, but this is for the ratepayers. I just don't understand what people are saying. Oh, they'll keep coming back to you. We'll just say no then. And as for car parks, I did a car park at Woodhill School. Well, council did through local infrastructure project because at the end of the day, it's 16 years they couldn't get it done. So this is how you help the community. So it blows my mind that we'd be thinking no to this for either councillor. So that's my opinion, the same as everyone has theirs. So happy to move these when they come through, knock that one back and move them.
Thank you, Councillor Bannon. We'll test this shortly. I'll just go to Councillor Hall and then we'll go to the motions, okay? Councillor Hall.
We can't keep pulling up state government's pants, especially around the schools. State government needs to focus on its schools. It needs to talk to its schools. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Hall.
I believe this can be funded through Community Benefit Fund, and as the Area Council Division 6, I'd be happy to contribute towards a Community Benefit Fund application from the school for this, but I think we need to be very tight on how local infrastructure funding is spent, and it should be only spent on council assets on council property.
Thank you, Councillor Hall, for your interpretation. Councillors, at the moment, what we're doing, we've got a motion up on the board that we're just tabling the attachments of 1 and 3. We need to table these, so could I please get a mover just for the tabling of the attachments? Councillor Stemp, Councillor Bradley, was that you seconding that? No? Okay. Apparently we only need one, so Councillor Stemp has moved it. All those in favour for just the attachments to this report. That's all this is. Thank you. That has been carried unanimously. First off, we are going to put up the original motion on the board. This This is the amendment from the officers because of Councillor Fraser's withdrawal of his one. That's the section of point 4. So I just want you to note that point 3 is the special consideration projects, LIP 663 and LIP 664, and they not be approved. So that's the original motion that was in the report. So Councillor Bradley is moving that motion. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Lane. Can, by way of show of hands, those in favour, please raise your hand. That has not been carried. Can I please go around the room, please, and state how you voted? Mr Mayor.
For.
Can you use your microphone, please, Mr Mayor?
For.
For.
Lane.
For.
Russell.
Against.
Karansky.
Against.
Raven.
Against.
Councillor Hall.
Abstain, and for reason that I don't believe this fits the definition of where LIP should be
Thank
spent.
you. Councillor Fraser.
Against.
Councillor Harrimeyer.
For.
Councillor Bannon.
Against.
Councillor Stemp.
Against.
Councillor Wilcox.
Against.
And myself against. So just checking the numbers, just bear with us for a second. Stemp was against. That has not been carried. Thank you. So we'll now bring up the motion on the board, and I've asked the meetings team to separate LIP 663 and 664 in two different sections of this amended motion. So number 4 on this, it says the special consideration program LIP 66. Should it be 66? Number 4 should be. Oh, sorry. Sorry. So 3 up the top there is 663 be approved, and number 5 is 664 be approved as well. So that's the current motion on the board. So that's meaning both LIP projects, special LIP projects, both Councillor Stemp's and Councillor Karansky's be approved. So can I get a mover for that motion, please? Councillor Stemp has moved it. Councillor Karansky has seconded. By way of show of hands, please raise your hands if you are in favour of this motion. So going around the room, can you please provide how you voted? I believe it's been carried, but Councillor Mayor Power, can you please use your microphone, Mr Mayor?
Against.
A bit harder.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Bradley. That's a fine for you. And it's a Christmas carol too, so that's definitely. Councillor Bradley.
Against.
Councillor Lane.
I abstained, and I'd like to provide a reason. During a previous committee for special consideration of LIP funding that went against the council officer's recommendation, councillors voting today actually voted to support that. And I just think it's a bit of a backflip when it's in their own backyard.
I supported your one.
Thank you. That's your opinion, and you're allowed to state that. That's correct. Councillor Russell.
For.
Councillor Karansky.
For.
Councillor Raven.
Abstain, and I'd like to provide a reason. I'm not comfortable with subsidising the state government's education costs using ratepayers' funds.
Thank you. Councillor Hall.
I abstain, same reason as Councillor Raven.
Thank you. Councillor Fraser.
For.
Councillor Harrimeyer.
Against.
Councillor Bannon.
For.
Councillor Stemp.
For.
Councillor Wilcox.
For.
And I'm for. Thank you. Thank you, Caroline.
Is it passed?
We are now going to move on to report 5.3, the monthly financial report for October 2023. Caroline, you please enter the discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'd like to note that this monthly report is a flash financial report, meaning that it's briefer than our normal reports, as we're pushed against a hard time frame to have this report to Council before the Christmas break. The alternative was to provide a full report, but that would have gone to Council in January, and I felt this wasn't timely information for council. To the report itself, the operating result for October 2023 is an operating surplus of $17.3 million, which is $17.9 million above budget. The variance consists of operating revenue being above budget by $20 million and operating expenses above budget by $2 million. The items driving the variance in the operating revenue have been noted previously in reports to council. The water charges, so bulk water charges, are above budget, but there is an offsetting expense. Private works revenue is also above budget. Again, there are offsetting expenses for that. The DA fees continue to hold and are tracking above budget. Council has received grants which were not in the budget as they weren't known at the time of developing the budget, and also interest received on our investments is greater than budget, and that will be amended in the first budget amendment presented today. There's also a variance overall in materials and services, although the two major items that I mentioned as revenue offsets in the expenses being bulk water and private works contribute significantly to that variance. You also note that we've made a change to the tables in regard to the accounts on arrangements in response to your concerns and questions that you've raised over the last few months. I don't think there are any other highlights. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Caroline. I just wanted to note that the rate arrears, you have broken it down into the different properties for councillors to see. Thank you for doing that. That's a little bit extra work in the report. And councillors, is there any questions for Ms Bugg? There being none, we've got a motion on the board for the financial report for the period ending October 23 be noted. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Stemp has moved it. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Bradley, all those in favour, please raise your hands. Noting Councillor Bannon is out of the room and so is Councillor Raven. That has been carried with those that are present in the room. Thank you very much. Caroline, I think you've got a few here racked up. So item 5.4, revised long-term financial forecast for 2023-2024 and debt policy.
Thank you, Chair. This report reflects a change in the long-term financial forecast. It's presented today incorporating the borrowing requirements for the projects that were considered and adopted in the July report for net zero solution projects. These projects were already in the long-term financial forecast. However, they've been brought forward in timing of the delivery. To enable council to include borrowings for these projects in the current year, there's a requirement to adopt a new long-term financial forecast and also a revised debt policy for 2023-24, which reflects the changes in the 2 years 2023-24 and 2025-26, which is shown in attachment 2 of the report. For clarity, the tables on page 26 of the agenda reflect the quantum of the borrowed amounts across the 5-year horizon with the changes highlighted for you. Happy to take any questions on that.
Thank you, Caroline. I have Councillor Herrmeyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question's for the council officers and it's regarding the debt policy. Large amounts of debt will be taken out to support the net zero solution project. This debt's interest rate is determined by QTC's cost of funds plus administration fee.
Correct.
QTC offers a green bond that has lower yields, resulting in a decreased interest rate. They offer this to different organisations through their green bond borrowing program. That means that the interest rate is lower for these organisations and reduces interest repayments. Projects that are eligible under this green bond borrowing program that has a lower interest rate includes public transport projects, it includes solar panel projects. So my question is, has council got the capability under this debt policy to apply for a project to be eligible for green bond borrowing program? And on top of that, do councillors have the intention to apply for eligibility regarding the net zero project? Thank you.
Through the chair. Thank you, councillor. We will always endeavour to minimise the amount of interest payable on all of our loan borrowings. So if we are able to take up that option with QTC, that will be part of the conversations that we have in our borrowing application.
Thank you. So there's a committee that governs project eligibility. An application is submitted by organisations like councils. Do council officers know if an application has been submitted to be able to access that lower interest rate?
There has been no application at this point.
Is there an intention to consider submitting an application?
Happy to consider that. Yes, absolutely.
And can councillors please
Sure.
be kept up to date as to the status of that application and whether or not it's successful?
Sure.
Thank you.
Fantastic question, Councillor Heremiah. Thank you very much. Councillors, is there anybody else that wishes to ask any? Mayor Power.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. To the manager, in relation to this report, can we have available in future reports on this the PDA percentages, proportional funding that's obviously been created as part of that agreement to build Flagstone and Yarrabilba, because obviously that is a major component, and I think councillors need to be aware of that particular figure.
Through the chair, happy to incorporate that additional information.
Thank you. And also the total debt figures, I think that's important too. And I've asked for that information, and I've given it to the councillors this morning. It'll be in your email, so you can have a look at that. It's quite important.
Councillors, any further questions? No, there's a motion on the board with regards to this. Councillor Bannon has moved it. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Stamp, all those in favour, noting Councillor Bradley has just left the room. That has been carried unanimously. Thank you so much. Caroline, you've got all the fun reports today, and we're going to move on to 5.5, and I note that it is a confidential report. Councillors, there's a motion up on the board to take this into a confidential matter. Do I have a mover to take this into a confidential? Is it only an attachment that is the confidential? No? Excellent. Okay, Carolyn, I hand it over to you, noting that we are not in confidential. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This is our first budget amendment for the current financial year 2023-24. It's our first opportunity to reflect upon our current year and review against the budget and incorporate any known changes. I'd like to remind the councillors that in many instances we hold funds in reserves until the projects are planned to the point where the level of funding required is certain. And at this point in time, we transfer the funds from reserves to the operating component of our budget. A number of the movements in this amendment are due to the advanced planning and spending being expected in the coming months. So quite a number of projects are being transferred from reserves. The allocation of capital to operating expense is also a transfer that you've seen previously. The quantum of this transfer is dependent on the types of projects completed and specifically the expenses that can be capitalised versus those that are truly operational in nature. I'd like to note that Logan Water hasn't amended the operating budget at this stage, and therefore the variances that I note in regard to bulk water and private works in both revenue expenses will continue to be reflected in our monthly report. They have made adjustments to their capital budgets. So the review of the budget has resulted in an operating surplus of $2.5 million, which is a decrease of $1.4 million from the original budget surplus of 3.9. The amendment is reflecting an increase in interest revenue on investments of $2.5 million and an increase in general rate income of $3.9 million. You also note that we've transferred to reserve an amount of $3.55 million for digital transformation pending the business case decision. The overall negative impacts on the operating position are listed on page 45, with the significant items being reprovisions of $2.3 million for REPA, and the legal cost for, particularly in DA, but a lot of that variance relates to invoices that weren't received last financial year but relate to last financial year. We're also transferring money from reserve for the people plan projects, including a 6-month trial of on-site support for EAP. I'm happy to answer any particular questions you have in relation to this amendment.
Thank you, Caroline. Councillors, does anybody have any questions? No, there's a motion up on the board. Councillor Bannon has moved the motion. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Raven has seconded it. Seconded it. Sorry about that. All those in favour, please raise your hand, noting Councillor Bannon, Herrenmeyer and Bradley are out of the room. That has been carried by everybody that is here. Thank you very much. Councillors, we're now moving on to item 5.6, which is a confidential report, 2024-2025, proposed budget parameters. Caroline, this one is you again, and I note that this item 5.6 is confidential. A proposed resolution to move this matter is displayed on the screen. Do any councillors wish to move into closed session for this item? No? Over to you, Caroline. Thank you.
Yeah. There's not a lot to say, but I will try my best.
Can we take the report as being read
yes,
then, maybe?
absolutely.
Excellent. Councillors, is there any questions noting that we are not in confidential? No, there being none. I'll just wait for the team to put up the motion. There's the motion on the board. Do I have a mover for the motion? Councillor Raven has moved it. Councillor Fraser has seconded it. I'm doing it well today, aren't I? All those in favour, noting Councillor Bradley is not in the room, please raise your hands. That has been carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Unanimously. Yes, I'm doing really well today. We're flying through this agenda, Councillor Bannon. So, Carolyn, don't go away because I know that one of our councillors has general business just for you. Councillor Stemp.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Caroline, and also to the Local Infrastructure Program Administrator, Louise Blue, for your hard work and for going above and beyond in creating the Local Infrastructure Program dashboard. The dashboard is great, providing each council division with up-to-date detailed information on projects funded through the Local Infrastructure Program and unallocated funds still available for infrastructure projects. This information is something I've asked for some time, as it's really helpful in assisting with planning for the division, and it is therefore much appreciated.
Thank you, Councillor Stemp. We all love a good Excel spreadsheet, especially when they balance. So thank you very much as well to Louise and you, Caroline. Caroline, do you have any GB for us? Sorry? No? You've had a pretty heavy load today. And we got through that quite quickly. So thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you and your team. Thank you very much. So, councillors, we're going to move along to item 5.8, and then after this report we may break for lunch for a bit, and then we'll have those last two reports. Oh, sorry, 5.7. I got ahead of myself. We're just skipping one. Sorry. 5.7 is a confidential report, encroachments involving council land in Eagleby. Mr. Brett McGrath, the Corporate Properties Manager, is going to be talking to this report. I note that this item is confidential. A proposed resolution is on the board. Does any councillor wish to take this in? Oh, geez, they've come out of the woodworks today. Councillor Raven has moved that. All those in favour to go into confidential, please raise your hands. Sorry, we needed a seconder. So there was a whole crew over there. So Councillor Raven, then Councillor Kransky has seconded. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Go in confidential. That has been carried unanimously. Noting Councillor Bradley is still out of the room. For your patience, that has been a lengthy debate. We have now got a motion on the board. As the local councillor, I'm going to move the motion myself. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Mayor has seconded. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Okay, that has been lost. We have prepared a second motion, which will be coming up shortly, just to defer this report. And the second motion says that the matter be deferred to a future City Governance Committee.
Are you going to ask how we voted regarding the last vote?
Sorry. Yes, Councillor Herrmeyer. Mr. Mayor and I voted for. The rest of the room did not, but we'll go around the room. Mr. Mayor, how did you vote?
For.
Councillor Lane.
Against.
Councillor Russell.
Against.
Councillor Kerensky.
Against.
Councillor Raven.
Against.
Councillor Hall.
Strongly against.
Councillor Fraser.
Against.
Councillor Herrmeyer.
Against.
Councillor Bannon.
Against.
Councillor Stemp.
Against.
And Councillor Wilcox.
Against.
Thank you. Thank you for the reminder, Councillor Herrmeyer. So now there is a motion on the board that the matter be deferred to a future City Governance Committee meeting for future consideration. All those, can I have a mover, please? Councillor Kerensky has moved it. Councillor Wilcox has seconded. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That has been carried, with the exception of Mayor Power. How did you vote, Mr. Mayor?
Against.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillors, does anybody have any general business for the corporate property manager today? No. Brett, do you have any for us?
No, thank you.
I would escape quickly. Merry Christmas to you both. Thank you for your time today. Councillors, we'll just go on to the next one and then we'll break for lunch. I hope you don't mind. We're just waiting for the officers to come into the room. Mr. Mayor, you can sneak out into the kitchen if you require. Councillors, we're just going on to 5.8, which is a confidential report, proposed acquisition of commercial property by Logan City Council. I note that this is a confidential report. A proposed resolution to move the matter is displayed on the screen. Does any councillors wish to move into a closed session? No, there being none. I hand it now over to Mr. Mike Basterfield, the Group Manager for Logan Water. Noting that we are not in council confidential, Mike.
I think I'd suggest we take the report as read.
Thank you. Just bear with me a second. Councillors, I just have to move that there is an additional confidential attachment as distributed to councillors on the 28th of November 2023 in relation to item 5.8 of the City Governance Committee meeting held on the 29th of November 2023 be tabled. Can I have a mover for that? Councillor Bannon has moved. Councillor Stamp has seconded. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That has been carried, noting Councillor Bradley is still out of the room. Mike, we're taking the report as read. Excellent. Councillor, there is a motion up on the board with regards to this. Councillor Bannon has moved it. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Raven has seconded. By way of show of hands, all those in favour, please raise your hands. Okay, I'm going to go around the room. So, Mayor Power, how do you vote?
For.
Councillor Lane?
Against.
Councillor Russell?
For.
Councillor Kransky?
Against.
Councillor Raven?
For.
Councillor Hall?
For.
Councillor Fraser?
For.
Councillor Harrimeyer?
For.
Councillor Bannon?
For.
Councillor Stamp?
Against.
Councillor Wilcox?
For.
Councillor Murphy is for. I think that has been carried. Thank you very much, Mike. That's how you do it. Does anybody have any general business for the manager of Logan Water? No? Do you have any for us?
No, thanks.
Merry Christmas. Thank you very much for coming. Councillors, that has brought us to the last two reports. We are just going to break for a lunch session because we believe the next two agenda items will go for a few hours. They're both confidential as well. We'll have a 10-minute break. Oh, sorry. What have we got here? We're going to do half an hour break just so we can go to the bathroom and have a bit of lunch. Councillor Lane has moved that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Fraser, all those in favour? Thank you very much. We'll be back at 12:54. Thank you. I have a motion on the board that in accordance to section 261 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the meeting recommended that at 12:55, today, Wednesday, the 29th of November, that we restart the meeting. Can I have a mover? Councillor Fraser has moved it. Do I need a seconder? Can I have a seconder to start that? Mr. Hall has. All those in favour, please raise your hand. I know that Councillor Bradley is still out of the room. And is Councillor Bannon still here?
He is. He's just popped out for a moment. He'll be back in a moment.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Councillors, we've got 2 more reports to go. Both are confidential. I believe they're going to take some time, but the first one is Digital Transformation Program Business Case, December 2023. I note that this is a confidential attachments to this documentation. A proposed resolution to move this matter is displayed on the screens. Do any councillors wish to move into a closed session? Councillor Lane has moved. Do I have a seconder to that? Councillor Russell has. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That is being carried, noting that Councillor Bannon, Councillor Raven and Councillor Bradley don't seem to be around. Thank you. Has the video been switched? And we're good to go down the back. Thank you very much to the public for being patient. We had another long discussion there. So we've come back out of into open session, and I believe Councillor Lane has a question for the council officers. Go ahead, Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much, Madam Chair. Through you, Kay, when I got this report, I read it and I thought, oh my goodness, this is huge. And unfortunately for me, I read the public report. So then I had to go through and read the confidential report. And that was a couple of hours because I wanted to make sure that I got everything in place. The question that I want to ask you is, for the people that saw that public report, which is quite extensive, is what is the actual benefit to ratepayers of us agreeing to this report? What benefits will they see as individuals, as well as obviously the benefits to the org we've just discussed in confidential? What will the ratepayers see as a benefit?
Thank you, Councillor Lane. There's probably two types of benefits. There'll be the benefits that are visible to our ratepayers, and then the behind-the-scenes benefits. So behind the scenes, this will allow our organisation to be more efficient and more effective. It would allow us to manage our costs better, and our costs, as you very well know, typically need to flow on to our ratepayers. What they will see visibly is a better customer experience, so it will be easier to do work with council. It will be easier to contact council should they have a query around broken playground equipment or a pothole. The visibility of that, they'll be able to track that through from start to finish. They'll be able to customise their own pages through our customer CX experience when that is deployed, and that will have all of their information there that they need, their rates, maybe their dog registration. I think the example we shared is a message from yourself, and did you know there's carols by candlelight in the park down the end of your street. So it will make their engagement with council more seamless and easier.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, when I go to the doctor, I don't ask them to tell me everything that they're doing in order to make me well, and I certainly don't ask that of my tax agent. I expect that they're people who are actually quite fluent in what they do, and I trust and put my faith in them. Today I'm going to put my faith in this report. I think it was a very well written and lengthy and horribly long report, but nonetheless, I have confidence in you and your team and the executive leadership team that are supporting this as well. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. I would just like to also extend, it is a very comprehensive report, and Kay and Ben have taken the time to reach out to councillors prior to this committee meeting today so that you could fully understand, have an opportunity to ask questions and provide responses. Also to ELT for being available today to answer any questions and show your support for the change of direction in this area. I think we just have to move forward. We can't sit still. To sit still would cost us even more money, which is not what we need with today's world and the cost of livings and etc. So I now am going to put the recommendation note. We're going to move the PowerPoint presentation, please, because that was tabled in the report. So could I please get a mover for that? Councillor Bannon has moved it. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Karansky, all those in favour, just to table the report. Thank you. Now we'll bring up the motion. There's a motion on the board. Councillor Bannon has moved the motion. Do I have a seconder? Mayor Power has seconded the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Councillor Hall, I can't see you. Yep. That has been carried unanimously, noting that Councillor Bradley is still not with us this afternoon. That has been carried. Congratulations, Kay and Ben. Thank you very much. Before you leave, does anybody else have any general business for Kay today? Do you have any for us?
Nothing today, thank you.
Great way to end the year. Thank you very much. We'll see you at Ordinary Council. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. We are moving on to the last report. I know it has been a big day, but please bear with us. So we are now moving on to item 5.10, Development Assessment Branch Service Delivery Levels 2023. I note that this is there is a confidential attachment, and a proposed resolution for this matter is displayed on the screens. Do any councillors wish to move into a closed session? No, they do not. Thank you. Okay. Stephen, thank you for entering into the discussion. I take it you'll be taking this as the report has been read, or will you be saying something today?
Through the chair, I might. So we're not going into the presentation, the first part of the presentation? Okay.
Public presentation you can do. Are you happy for that to happen?
Yeah, I'm happy to if the council wants to do that, yes.
Councillors? Yes? Okay. Please proceed.
Guess that I'm confidential, yeah. Okay, so through the chair, good afternoon, councillors. I appreciate it's been a long day for all of you. So in August 2023, the Development Assessment Branch embarked on what was a service level review. So that was 3,000 hours of officer time. So those key people that you often deal with in over a 16-week period. That was 60 workshops. And even for myself, going offline for 3 weeks in order to consolidate the information across the branch. The key outputs from a service review process are one, the creation of a service catalogue, which informs the customer charter, so we can be really transparent with the levels of services that we agree to deliver. The next component is around our service level options, which was subject to the report that you've got in front of you with those 3 different levels of service. The next component is around the opportunities for improvement. So that's where we sit down and we look for opportunities to enhance our services. 440 of those were identified, of which were consolidated down to 56 groupings. So those will form part of the business planning process and a continuous improvement program that we've always had within DA. The final component of that is the base budget build, which we're still working on, and we're hoping to influence the 24-25 budget, but that'll be dependent upon the finalisation of the ledger process as part of one of the other technology solutions council has moved into. So in terms of the presentation in front of you, just going over broadly, the key drivers for change for the Development Assessment Branch was we've had a lot of growth in the city. We've seen some legislative changes which has driven more complexity in our assessments. That's increased workloads. We have, of course, been implementing business improvements over for quite a while to try and find those efficiencies. But really, the information that's been provided to you in the confidential section looks at 3 different options. We either allow, with the increased workloads, for there to be a decrease in the levels of service. We look to make some changes to our resourcing so we can either maintain or increase our levels of service. Or finally, we look to stop some of the services that are not legislative. Within the information, you'll see that it's broken up into first of all covering off what the service is. So there's 22 different services identified, 3 different service level options, with the level 1 being that to meet our minimum legislative obligations. Talks about different deliverables, so it might be a 2-day turnaround time versus say a 10-day turnaround time. That flows into risks, so that could be increased customer complaints, could be increased appeal costs, etc., etc. We've estimated what we believe the satisfaction levels would be from the customers or the community as a response to delivering a particular service level. We've identified the caseloads per officer, and then we've looked at resourcing. So what are the existing resources? What would be the required change, positive, negative or nil? What that change would be, and then going into what the budget implication would be. And then depending upon the service type, it could be a general rates change, or it could be increase to fees and charges. And finally, in some instances, if we are not looking to make any changes, it could actually fall below a level 1 service, and there could be some complications. The reason that we've done this piece of work is because we know from Logan City Council's decision-making framework that the ability to make a good decision is achieved through a joint commitment from the councillors and the administrative arm. So my role as the administrative arm was to come up with the 3 different options against each of the service areas and make sure I provide good information around the risks associated with different levels of service and what those deliverables will be. And with the information that you've been provided, the council arm, so the elected arm, is to make a decision based on that information with those options around how we move forward. So the DA branch, as I was talking about before, with those with the costings, there are 2 different services that we offer. So one is those that are recovered through fees and charges from the development industry. So it could be application assessments or plumbing inspections. And then we have those non-recoverable services, which you'll know as being those investigation services. This just goes to show how many services are actually offered by the DA branch, which we've been able to consolidate into 22. And that's the end of the non-confidential section.
Thank you, Stephen. That was pretty comprehensive with what we have in our reports. I do note that you sent out an email after our first meeting and connected with the councillors, and some of the councillors have been in contact with you and asked questions prior to this. So far, I've got Councillor Lane is the only one that wants to answer any questions, so please proceed, Councillor.
Thanks very much, Madam Chair. I didn't actually come in with the idea of a question, but it was actually a comment that you made that triggered me a little bit. So we've got levels of service where you say that they could actually be reduced as a result of not supporting this today. And you said that some of them could actually result in appeals being lodged. What is the average standard of Logan's assessments versus other cities around southeast Queensland?
Well, Councillor, that's a really a complex and diverse question depending upon which SEQ council you're in. So I actually chair one of the SEQ council groups, so I do get some scope of the spectrum. Yeah, but it's really delivered by, depending upon the fees and charges that we charge to industry. So you might recall a couple of years ago, we actually made an alteration to one of our fees around plan sealing. So, and that was about increasing the number of resources in our plan sealing service, which halved the time frame for plan sealing. Now at the time, I'm trying to remember the figures. So in an early stage of a subdivision, let's say every week of time that we take to assess a plan sealing application might be $50,000 in holding costs, so the interest that somebody would pay on a loan for the development industry. And in an initial stage of a major development, like Fraser's development at Beliva there, that could be almost $500,000 for every week. So through this council agreeing to increase some of our fees and charges, we've actually doubled the fees, but it still might have been only in the order of, say, $5,000 to $10,000 per application, but it would have saved industry between $50,000 and $500,000 on some of it. So I just wanted to paint out that example because it's actually really complex, and it depends upon the level of service our customers want from us, which defines then the resourcing that we have, which then informs the fees and charges that we set, et cetera, et cetera. So, and with all the services we offer, everyone is different, from the mums and dads domestic scale applications through to that example I just used around plan sealing.
I understand that, but how do we compare to other councils when it comes to the actual processing of application times?
I'm proud to say we're probably the fastest in South East Queensland, I'd say, and a lot of that is driven by the fact that we have a free pre-lodgement service that we offer in this city, which makes sure that when customers lodge, they already have that clarity around what we expect them to lodge with their applications, and it also has resulted in, I think, 60 to 70% drop from 10 years ago on the amount of money we spend on planning and development appeals, which used to be almost $6 million. We've now got that down to $1.6 million with the support of this council.
So we're fastest and we're planning on being even faster.
I'd like to say we're smarter because it's not just about speed, it's also about quality, because one of the challenges when I first started here 10 years ago, we initially made a big switch to be faster, but then what we did is we had a lot of applications coming through for change applications, so you can push things out quickly, but then later on they say, okay, well, I'd like to have done this and that differently. So actually it's quality, so being smarter.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Some good questions there. I have now Councillor Raven, Councillor Power, and then Councillor Karansky. Councillor Raven, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Stephen and Dave, I just wanted to give a huge thank you to the team for 3,000 hours of over and above effort above BAU. I would see people like Simon, people like Jess and others sending me emails well and truly after hours, and I didn't really click to why that was until Stephen pointed out how many hours that was. So please pass my gratitude on as chair to the team for the amazing work they do. As planning chair, I probably interact with industry more often than most councillors do, and that feedback that we get that Councillor Lane's referring to, how quick are we, how easy are we to work with, is very, very positive. But what you said there about the amount of money we can save them in holding costs, the feedback I'm starting to get is that they would actually pay an even higher excess to get guaranteed turnaround on service. So to the point where, like, you're being too nice to us. Charge us more because you're saving us so much money, and give us a faster turnaround so that you can offset the costs of other parts of your business. And I was really impressed, and that's not one developer, it's about 5 or 6 different developers saying it costs us so much with interest rates being higher now than they were before, and the risk that we take by holding land, we are happy to pay more to mitigate that risk. So if we can see something like that when it does come back to service enhancement for consideration through budget, that would be amazing to understand that. And I imagine that would just be through fees and service charges, just having as an option that they can tap into and say, yep, we're happy to pay an even bigger premium for a very fast turnaround, and that helps us cover the costs of the BAU and the non-cost recoverable elements of the business. And they're very, very happy to contribute to that in the way that they like to see developers who are doing the wrong thing being punished through the construction task force, because it damages their reputation as well. So just good to see that because we've got a good reputation, industry investment wants to lean into our city. Let's let them lean in and make them pay for it.
Thank you, Councillor Raven. Councillor Powell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's fair to say that I'm not going to be here for the budget, but obviously you're wanting a, in principle, agreement to this. I'm just a little bit disappointed, not so much in the fact that it's landed here, but if we had this report up in January, we'd really know what's going on in the regional plan. Obviously, the way the regional plan is weighted at the moment towards Logan, the emphasis is obviously going to be that we're picking up a lot more development than we anticipated. Certainly the growth of the city is amplified in the report, but it's how we strategise in dealing with developers when we're subsidising each block by $30,000 a lot, and how we handle that as a city. You know, do we want the best service? Not if we're subsidising $30,000 a lot. Do we want to slow down the process? Probably. Do we want to have the most expensive fees? If we're subsidising, I suggest that's probably the way to go. There's a lot of questions I raise because this is further down the track, and this is obviously, you're going to be looking at this in finer detail in May, June, when you really knot this budget out. On retrospect of what I know of the department, yes, you probably do need to allocate more officers, particularly with land uses. I know that there is things happening in the city that councillors can't get quick activation on things that you want to stop. Certainly to me that would stand out straight away. The amount of applications, particularly in the plumbing area, has gone up astronomical, but you need to work out a strategy. I would suggest, in principle, I think there would be an agreement that in some areas there needs to be an increase in officers, but I don't think I could support just an overriding document suggesting in every area it be increased. And to work out where the city is travelling in the next few months is going to be important for your decision-making processes coming up. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have Councillor Kransky, then Councillor Bradley.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Murphy. Stephen, if council is to endorse this report today, what does that commit council to? Because I've read the recommendations in confidential, and then had we been in confidential, I would have probably interrogated that a bit further. So the Mayor was talking about in principle agreement. What are we agreeing to if we endorse the report?
Through the chair, within the confidential section, you will have seen that there was a particular slide that mentioned some parameters around fees and charges, and also that related to the implications of on general rates. The purpose of that was really just to give me some guidance and understand where this council's thought processes are at, so that I can make sure that I prepare good information for your deliberations of budget. Because if we start that conversation in budget, I appreciate you're already extremely busy in budget and you spend a lot of time working through the information. And if I don't have that right information, you won't be able to make that decision you need. So that's all I was really looking for today, was to understand if there are any sensitivities around some of those parameters in that one particular confidential slide, so that I could move ahead with preparing that more detailed information that you'd need to make a decision.
Because from my perspective, I'm reluctant. We know that we're coming up to an election that's not too far off, and I'm reluctant to actually tie a new council to any kind of commitment that this council might make today in and around budgets. I want them to have the latitude and the freedom to make choices that they haven't actually been locked into here.
Dave, please enter the conversation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to give you absolute comfort, you're not committing a future council to any specific funding request. This is really just referring, like Stephen said, it allows us to build a draft budget in a certain way, and we will still have to argue the toss on all those things that you would like to discuss, and parts of the service offering might not be as per the recommendations in the report today. So we're very happy to have those discussions at that time. But the process of the service level reviews is that we come to committee first rather than just drop that on you cold in the budget environment.
Because part of it, Dave, is that the DA branch was the first to participate in the service review project, so presumably everybody else will be doing this in due course. So you have the edge, right? So you have the opportunity to build your case for councillors, get in front of us before we go into caretaker mode and pitch. So, you know, I want to make sure that all members of ELT have the same opportunity to do the same presentation, to get the ear of councillors, and I didn't want to pre-commit to anything until I've heard what everyone's got to say.
Yeah, there's no doubt that it's going to be an incremental process over a number of years. So I guess the difference with the DA branch is that they do have that cost recoverable element to it, whereas other branches might be coming purely for just rises out, you know, funded by rates. So happy to follow whatever process through budget that is given to us, much like this service level review process has been given to the branch to work through.
And just to close out, I just wanted to say, I know personally I've always been a very big supporter of you and the branch and the work that you do. This report makes me a little bit nervous, to be frank. So, thanks.
Always best to be first, don't you think, Dave? I think so anyway. Councillor Bradley and then Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you, through the chair. And firstly, may I apologise for not being here for a lot of the committee. I had to urgently leave. So I don't know what the conversation has been around, and I didn't know if we were in confidential or not. I had to ask the chair, so I believe that we aren't. I probably would have liked to have been in confidential, so because there was reference to our particular slide, and I think that scrutiny would have been invaluable. The other thing, yeah, I won't interrupt that conversation, but the other thing, yesterday I asked publicly about the state government's intent around granny flats, secondary dwellings, etc. I would have liked some sort of opportunity to, you know, talk about that or ask about that, or but anyway, I won't be able to at this point in time. So thank you.
Councillor Bradley, you can ask that in GB next.
No, I did yesterday.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you very much. I was going along the same lines as Councillor Karansky when I was reading it, when I've been sitting here listening. With the service review project, you're right, you are the first branch to go and that sort of thing, and we have another 4 branches to follow you. And it does make me nervous now sitting here and that sort of thing. So this might be a question for the CEO, I'm not sure. So for the 24-25 budget, are we expecting another service review from another branch to follow this one, or is this the only one that's coming through before this budget?
There are another couple coming through, so you will see additional service reviews, but certainly not the full suite across the whole organisation before the coming budget. It'll probably be another 2 years at least before we work our way through the whole organisation to provide this sort of level of detail.
Councillor Wilcox, does that answer your question for the moment?
It does. I have another question, but again, I think I probably needed to ask it
In confidential
as well, yeah.
Okay. Kay, I noted that you've stepped up to the table. Did you want to add anything to this conversation at all?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Probably just very briefly, wanted to just be really clear that what's been presented here today is part of service reviews. The other part of service reviews, obviously, is that extensive analysis of branches around how we can do things more efficiently and effectively, and having a look at business improvement opportunities. So that's the other element of the work here, and what I'm noticing a number of branches do, which is that the process for service reviews is make sure that those business improvements are documented and actually starting to be implemented. So that will obviously help inform the ask for resources and budget at a future date.
Thank you very much. Councillors, I have no further councillors asking questions, and I've put the motion up on the board because we are not in confidential. We'll go straight to that. Councillor Bannon has moved the motion. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Raven. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Okay, we'll go around the room. I believe it's been carried, but can we go around the room, please? Mayor Power. In your microphone, please.
Sorry. 4.
Do it again.
4.
Thank you.
That's a fine, Mr Mayor. That's a fine.
Councillor Bradley.
Abstain, and I want to give a reason. I would have liked to have had an opportunity to ask questions in confidential.
No problem. Councillor Lane.
Abstain.
Councillor Russell.
4.
Councillor Kransky.
Abstain.
Do you want a reason at all?
I have concerns about committing this council to future budget constraints. Although I accept what the director has provided me in terms of advice, I think that this council's in for a really tough new budget, and I'm just worried where this is headed.
I agree. Councillor Raven.
4.
Councillor Hall.
Confidently 4.
Councillor Fraser.
4.
Hermeyer.
4.
Bannon. 4. Stemp. 4. Wilcox. 4. And I'm a 4. I believe that it's been carried. Thank you, councillors. Does anybody have any general business for the Development Assessment Manager? Do you have any for us?
Through the chair, no, I don't.
Merry Christmas. Before we go, councillors, don't get too excited. We've got Robert. Robert, does anybody have any general business for the director? Do you have any for us, Robert? Thank you very much. Today has been a long committee. Before we go, I would just like to do a big shout out to my dad. He's 81 today. It has been a journey this year. I hope you have had a great day. Thank you, councillors. We close the meeting at 2:03, which I thought was a record for today, considering our reports. Thank you and have a good afternoon.